Hi everyone, welcome back. We're talking about physical characteristics and attraction this week, and this topic is one of my favorites because we often like to tell ourselves that we're not judging people based on their appearance only, right? And that's true, that's developing over time, but we are evolutionarily and biologically predisposed to look for certain physical traits in other humans. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, what that means for kind of who you end up with, your mate, and what that means in terms of nonverbal communication. So the ideals of attraction change over time, right? So what was considered really beautiful is generally a cultural issue as well as kind of a generational issue. So the standard of beauty in 1950 is going to be very different than the standard of beauty in 1990, which is very different than the standard of beauty now, right? So one of the only things that doesn't change either cross-culturally or over time is that we are especially drawn to symmetric faces. So facial symmetry is if you were to cut your face into four quadrants, how evenly they would match up on all parts, right? But the brain autocorrects for this. So when you look at someone, your brain doesn't necessarily pick out any minor nuances in facial dissymmetry. So a fun way to test for this is if you take out like your student ID or your driver's license. I would have you do this in class if we were in class, but we're not in class, we're in my office. So take out your driver's license and then flip it over. So look at basically a picture of yourself upside down. And once you do that, your brain stops autocorrecting and you can start to see where those lapses in symmetry are. And if there are no lapses in symmetry, maybe you're just a particularly good looking person. I don't know. When I look at my facial symmetry thing, I can tell that I have an eyebrow that's higher than the other one and that my nose slants to one of the directions. So many directions. But so that's fun. In your textbook for this topic, we talk about body types. So endomorphs, mesomorphs, and ectomorphs. And the thing about body type and body makeup is that we tend to attribute personality traits to someone just based on how they look, right? And this is a really unique human characteristics because a lot of other animals, they don't look at a fellow guinea pig and think, that guinea pig is really skinny, I bet she's kind of a bitch, right? We don't do that. Well, they don't do it. We're not guinea pigs, so we do it, actually. But so the idea is that based on just someone's body type, we might think that they're really smart or that they're mean or that they're, sweet and cuddly, and without having ever interacted with them at all. And so that's an interesting element of nonverbal communication. So we are, and again, this is kind of a heteronormative approach to traditional evolutionary standards, but we're predetermined to biologically seek out mates that are fertile. And there are biological dimensions of fertility that are obvious. So for women, a traditional like hourglass figure is generally sort of seen across time as being really attractive because it's also an indicator of fertility. So a woman that has an hourglass figure is likely to have healthy babies, right? So the hip to waist ratio for this is between 0.67 and 0.69. And it doesn't necessarily matter what size you are. So Marilyn Monroe was like a 0.67 and she was like a size 12 or size 14. Megan Fox is a 0.67 and she's a size 0. So it doesn't necessarily matter what dress size you wear, it's just the proportions of your body. For males, the traditional male kind of standard of fertility are an inverted triangle, if you think about it. So broad shoulders and a narrower hip element. So the hip to waist ratio is more of a 0.9, right? Because when you think of men, you don't think of like waists. They don't belt cardigans and wear corsets. It's kind of a straight up and down image. So other elements of attraction in males are things like a prominent brow bone, facial hair, body hair. Balding is one, people that are balding, and all of these are because those are indicators of high levels of testosterone. And so obviously people with higher levels of testosterone are more likely to produce offspring. So that's fun. The beauty industry totally capitalizes on this. So some biological markers for women are things like shiny hair, full lips, big eyes, clear skin. There's a number of them. I could keep going. But the beauty industry really markets to this, right? So we're always seeing ads about how if you buy this shampoo, your hair is going to be so much shinier. And if you put your makeup on this way, your eyes are going to look like Bambi and blah, 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 blah. And the reason is that we know that that's what we look for in an attractive female. And so that's kind of an interesting component. Some things about attraction that are not in your book. So height. For men, height is seen as a total advantage, and it kind of bleeds over into not just attraction, but into success. So men who are over 6 foot make more money than men who are at about the national average right now for men in height is about 5'9". So if you're taller than 5'9", you are likely to make more money than your 5'9" or shorter counterpart. This does have a cap, so if you are taller than 6'4", you do not keep making money. The bigger you get, it doesn't work that way. Unless you're like in pro basketball, and then you probably would make like a lot more money because you're taller. I don't know. But it is basically linked to height. So you're seen as more attractive just because you're tall. And because you're seen as attractive, you're seen as smart. And because you're seen as smart, you're seen as successful. And it keeps going. Being highly attractive for a female has a negative effect on success. So women who are highly attractive are seen as less competent in the workplace. And so they're generally not given as much control or status or positions of power, etc. That's not to say like, oh, boo-hoo, she's too pretty, because attractive women also get things much easier, right? People offer them things, they get free things, people will give up seats on a bus. So there's a lot of perks for highly attractive females. The activity report that I have you do that deals with physical characteristics is one about mate selection, and it's a really cool study that shows kind of how we process who it is that we want to be our mate based on kind of these evolutionary or biological factors. So hopefully you'll have a lot of fun with it, watching the experiment and then writing about it. But this is just one of those topics where we love to think that we are so deep and we're really not looking for things, but then you might notice like, hey, I really like his jawline. So this week I want you to go out into the world and think about what your mate or what your choice in a potential mate, what does that say about you? I'll be in touch.